Hey, so I'm out on my morning bike ride and I thought I'd take my camera out and show you guys one of the areas that I kind of force myself to drive by or bike by every time I'm out here. And it's because it is actually a veal processing facility. So I want to show you guys this, and it's not going to be graphic per se, but I just want to explain and show what happens when we support different industries such as, meat, and I eat meat, my family eats meat. We're trying to cut back drastically, very drastically. But this is a veal processing facility, so this just takes it to the next level. And I purposely come by here every single time I'm out on my bike ride, because every time I drive by it, it makes me furious. It makes me feel disgusted to be a human being, and I think it drives me more to produce videos, to get the message out, and I think it's important for me to constantly see what is out there. And when we go to a restaurant and we order veal parmesan, one of these little baby creatures gets killed and gets turned into a meal for us when we could have just maybe selected something else. So my heart rate's coming down. I want to get back on the bike. I will make my next stop at that veal processing facility and show you guys kind of what's going on. Okay, so basically what's going on here is that we have adult cows that are breeding, and they're confined in very small space. When they're in this very small space and brought all the food they need, they become tremendous carbon emitters, specifically in the form of methane, because they're eating corn and wheat and hay, which is not necessarily the preferred diet. They would be basically eating living grass, not dead, dried out hay, and then corn, especially when they're fattened up. That's not part of their diet at all, their normal diet. And then all their manure is basically piled into a giant anaerobic pile. And when it goes anaerobic like this, as I talk about in my composting videos, it's basically a methane generating factory. The methane's 30 times worse as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. Now, we don't really want all that carbon in the air, whether or not you are a climate change person or not. That carbon is absolutely better in the soil, because carbon in the soil acts as a giant nutrient sponge, water sponge, and nucleation site for all kinds of chemical bonding. It's very, very important for regulating the charge in the soil. It's a buffering agent. It's a smoothing out moderation agent in the soil chemistry. It's very important in the soil. So even if we don't want it in the air for climate change reasons, we still want it in the soil for soil reasons, soil fertility reasons. Now, the babies, when they're brought out, they actually don't want them to develop too much muscle, because they don't want them getting lean. They want the muscle to be soft. So once they get to a certain age, they're actually put in these tiny little holding cages, and they're chained, and they spend the rest of their life in that holding cage. And once they get to a certain size and age, they basically get shipped off to the factory to be processed. So this is the processing facility. So these cows are spending their last days of their life in this cage, and these little guys will soon be turned into meat, and they will experience a life of basically pure torture for their entire life. And it is this kind of stuff that just makes me embarrassed to be a human being. So get the word out that when you go to a restaurant and you order veal parmesan, that this is what industry is happening to fulfill that demand that you're creating. This is a way where we can say that it's the big bad guys who are doing all the nasty stuff, but if we're not buying what they're producing, they're going to produce something else. If there's a demand for something, even if it's cruel, A lot of people might not do it for that cruelty, but that basically means that there's less supply. So that means the price goes up. And because the price goes up, at some point you're going to reach some price threshold where someone's okay with doing it in order to make that money. So the only way to solve it is for the demand to go to absolute zero. So get the word out. We don't want to be supporting industries like this. This is just absolutely disgusting, and we can do better as human beings. So start there, start with feel, cut it out of your diets. And if you have to change slowly, then change slowly, but change.